I'll start with a broad concept, and then we'll talk about some of the notes. The topic of our conversation is securing the edge to meet OMB Zero Trust requirements. What's your main takeaway so far? Is there a theme of ideas that you've heard today, or is there a broader concept in the Zero Trust world that you think is important to highlight?
No, I think everything I've heard today is quite consistent. I mean, you know that we've been in the endpoint security business for a number of years. Just recently extended our reach into the cloud with an acquisition last year. And we did so because while we've been pursuing Zero Trust from an endpoint perspective for several years now, we wanted to be able to have a full endpoint to cloud solution. Zero Trust really encompasses everything from the endpoint all the way up to the application. That application usually sits in the cloud. Certainly can sit behind a firewall in a data center or in the castle, as people have been calling it. But for the most part, and it's trending towards, with digital transformation, that application is trending towards the cloud. So what we wanted to do is make sure that we had a full implementation from that endpoint, where we've been very successful, particularly in the federal government. It's 20% of our business today, and extend our reach to provide a full Zero Trust solution. Everything that I've heard today is quite consistent, and the one thing that I'm really encouraged about is the speed at which this topic has made it into this audience. You know, things don't generally move quickly in the government. If you're selling into the federal government, you have to have a lot of patience. We call it persistence, patience, and perseverance. I mean, that is the theme of our federal government team. And we've been at it for 5 years, and we've done very well. This is one program that I have seen gain momentum quicker than anything else that I've seen happen in the federal government, and that's what I've heard here today. That it has now become part of the entire background of what's going on in the federal government now.
You told me. Did I die? I think my mic died, so I'll yell. That's right. We'll share. Oh, hand me that one.
I'll take this one.
All right, yeah, keep that one. All right, great. You told me on the phone last week that one of the things I should keep in mind as I was talking about this is the data, the stuff that's on the transom from endpoint to base and back, and that maybe we get a little caught up in the guts of it instead of thinking about the data.
That's right. I mean, this comes down to why do we do this in the first place, right? I mean, we talk a lot about the plumbing, about connecting these endpoints to the cloud services, but all of this plumbing is in place to do one thing, and that is to protect the data. And so when you think about Zero Trust, you really have to have a data-centric mindset to what you're doing, and that takes, extend your discussion into things like data loss prevention, or DLP, DRM, enterprise DRM, UEBA. These are technologies that sit on top of these Zero Trust technologies and really focus on protecting the data, because in the end, that's what this is all about. It's protecting the data both internally and when you share it externally, perhaps with third parties, partners, et cetera.
Another concept you pointed me to is that some people, some organizations have a tendency to make this too complicated. Cutting complexity, you told me, is really important. How does one go about doing that while still doing, we've talked about compliance a lot today. We've talked about the oversight that various organizations conduct. What's the reducing complexity piece of this look like?
A lot of the technologies that come under Zero Trust in the past have been standalone technologies. And many of the vendors are in the process of pulling them together and building them into a platform. And so what you want to do is you want to look at technologies that perhaps have been in the market for several years now that all fall under that sort of Zero Trust banner, and look to vendors who are pulling them together for you, unifying these technologies together into a common UI, a common UX, a common set of policies. When you go set up your data loss prevention policies, you want to do that once. and you don't want to do it across multiple siloed products. And there's a lot of vendors, and the momentum in the industry is to unify these technologies and to offer them in platforms to simplify deployment and operations.
You pointed out to me at lunch the budget. We talked about it a little bit this morning, but you said it's significant that the administration at least is asking for the money that they're asking for this for. Is it that concept that we talked about earlier, which means they're serious about it? It means they're committed to this idea, and that's kind of a signal to the agencies. You said at the beginning of this conversation, it's for real. This is.
I think, you know, in the last session, we had the same discussion here, is that there is no choice but to go to a zero trust model. Yeah. It is happening because digital transformation is happening and cloud transformation is happening. If we could say, hey, stop putting your applications in the cloud, stop putting your data in the cloud, that's too dangerous, yeah, then we wouldn't need to be talking about zero trust.
Good luck
If
with that.
That's not going to happen,
right,
then we are required to, we have no choice but to talk about zero trust. And by the way, since that is already happening, we're already too late talking about zero trust. And so I'm really pleased to see at least the emphasis that it's getting and the attention and the level of attention that it's getting, because it's a necessary thing.
I want to go back to the beginning of our conversation. You talked about endpoints when you first sat down, and that every CISO, every CIO I talk to mentions that in some context or other about the concern that she or he has. How do you expect that piece of the zero trust concept or journey or whatever you want to call it to evolve moving forward as we have more remote and telework, as we have more devices? You know, one of the agency's sub-bureaus gave me some ridiculous number, like they have 7,000 employees and they have 20,000 or something devices on their network.
We have, we've been in the endpoint business. It's a legacy business. We certainly saw a tailwind from COVID 2 years ago. I'll give you one example, and this is a government agency of ours. We were deploying endpoints. The original deployment was some 40,000 endpoints. We were adding 10,000 endpoints every 6 months. I think we had gotten up to 70 or 80,000 endpoints. COVID hit, and we got an order for 160,000 additional endpoints. Mm-hmm. So what did COVID do? It accelerated all of this by 5 years, effectively. I mean, had it not been for COVID, had it not been where we all ended up working from home instead of coming in the office, doing that for 2 years now, and we're going to be doing it continuing on a continual basis now, then the push to secure these endpoints would have taken 5 years. We would have just done it another 10, 20,000 every 6 months. COVID accelerated all of this, and it frankly accelerated zero trust as well. And so if anything good came out of what we all suffered through the past 2 years, it's the fact that we have accelerated the momentum behind some of these very necessary IT initiatives.
Jim, it's great to have you on stage with me today. I hope I didn't give you too much of a hard time. I'm sure I'll disappoint your team, but it's great to have you here with me.
Great.
Today.
Thank you very much.